Hi everyone, my name is Sander and welcome to the making of video about Elvira's Village Square Sparkles. So you might have already seen this particular video. I published actually links to it on LinkedIn here, but also of course published it on a different YouTube channel where basically you'll be able to find the video itself. Feel free to of course search for that using the search term. But this particular video will be based upon a separate channel where I'll be actually talking about the use cases of AI and what I've actually learned about the use of AI. Now, as part of the process of actually creating the Elvira video, I learned a whole lot about the actual use of AI. Key things like, for example, don't put too much information in there, but make sure you've got enough information there. Putting too much information there can slow down the process. Putting too little in there can basically dilute exactly the results you're looking for. So be descriptive enough, but not too descriptive, because otherwise it slows things down. Let's actually have a look at the tools I actually leveraged to be able to get around to this particular video here. To be able to create this very first video, I actually used a total of 5 different AIs. First one of those 5 is actually called Gemini, generative AI created by Google. Very similar to ChatGPT, slightly different, of course, interpretation of things, but that's fine. What I actually leveraged this for, I put in, of course, my original bedtime story that I used to tell my kids. I asked it, for example, basically create a more descriptive scene so that when we're creating an animation video like I did, I've got enough description for each individual scene to be able to get a nice video that I can put together. I also asked it, can you basically expand upon the dialogue? So I basically gave the overall story that I told the kids, and it expanded upon the dialogue, gave me narratives and so forth. So really great tool. And the beauty of this is actually, it actually uses Google Docs to then store those outputs for you. So you don't just see that on screen. It did originally show it on screen, but then actually put it into Google Docs afterwards. So we use this as an input for the other 4 AIs that we leveraged. Let's actually have a look at some of those other AIs that we actually leveraged here. Now, like I just said, I actually basically used Gemini to do a lot of different things in here. And one of those things is basically getting a visual description of each individual section that I actually wanted to leverage. Now, I use this as an input for the actual next bit, which actually I'm using here yet another Google tool. This is actually called ImageFX. It's an experimental tool by Google itself. But what it actually was able to do, it actually was able to create individual images based upon the reference it actually was able to put into here. So I put a description of the character I wanted to have, visual scene description, and so forth into there. And I was able to create these images as such for me. Now, what it actually is called, it's called ImageFX. You also got Video FX. I don't have access to that, but ImageFX, you put the inputs into there. You then basically describe exactly what it is you want. You put your quality in there. You can, of course, choose your aspect ratio and so forth into there. But once you put your inputs into here, it then creates that scene for you. Quite importantly, not only with this particular AI, but numerous other AIs, there is a seed provided. Once you got an image created in the form that you actually want to be able to leverage time and time again, take note of the seed, copy it into Notepad or whatever, so at least you can reuse that seed later on to get similar styled images provided to you time and time again. Now, I don't know if you noticed in the video itself, but there was background music. I put it at a very low volume in there. But what I actually, again, leveraged here, I actually asked Gemini, provide me with a description of the kind of music that would fit individual scenes. So for each individual scene, as you'll see here, there was a separate bit of music created as such. Now, this is actually for the next episode that's coming out soon. But if you actually look in here, I've actually used a tool called Suno. And Suno actually allows me to basically see all the bits that I've actually previously created. So I can actually see, well, I've actually had this particular bit of music created. I can listen to it if I wanted to. There you go. But the inputs you basically put into here then generate the type of music you want. Again, you use credits to create that. So yeah, you can basically, I think you've got a couple of 100 credits to start off with to just try it out. But it's really to entice you to take out a membership with them as such. But it really does a really fitting job of creating the type of music you want. Do bear in mind, when you're putting a description here, so you say create, make sure you either choose instrumental or you choose not to have instrumental. Because if you set it to not instrumental, so the option is turned off instrumental, it actually puts song and everything into there, which is not what I was looking for. I was purely looking for instrumental music, which I put in the background. So Suno is the tool I used to create that background music. So the next tool we actually leveraged was another tool that we basically going to look into more details into in a second. It's called Kling AI. But we combined, of course, the image we created with ImageFX by Google with the actual dialogues or the scene descriptions that we actually had, again, created by Gemini. And we then put that data into Kling AI. So Kling AI is a tool where you can actually put some reference images into there. If you basically go to your video generation image to video with elements, we can have multiple images in there as reference. You put your total description into there. And again, you can choose standard quality, professional quality. The length of the video, it's limited to 10 seconds in this particular section here. So 5 or 10 seconds. Aspect ratio, either for normal aspect ratio, or if you're creating YouTube Shorts, you of course choose your 9:16. You can actually choose to have multiple outputs. And of course, you can also then see exactly what's the cost of that. Now, I did notice there's a lot of fragmentation happening in there. So this video here, if you just run that from the beginning, you see fragmentation in the kids moving in the background, but also notice that Elvira is in here twice. So I had to go through multiple iterations of creating these videos. And if you only got the free version, you do get to see that watermark at the bottom of that. So I actually had to pay to be able to get access to that and be able to remove the watermark. And then basically, of course, able to download the video for us. Okay. It's a VIP feature. So you need to have an account with Kling AI to be able to remove that watermark. Now for the very next bit, again, we use the input that was generated by Gemini into here. But what we basically got in here, we exactly got the narration as well as the actual speech by the individual characters nicely put into this script here for us. So what we can actually then do, we're using a tool called ElevenLabs. And ElevenLabs allows you to basically create all the various different bits of narration or speech that we actually wanted to have within the video itself. So that's basically our last AI that we leveraged in here. So we used a total of 5 AIs in here. We used firstly Gemini, we used ImageFX, we used Suno, we used then of course ElevenLabs for the dialogue, and we used Kling AI for the short video creations itself. So for that final step, we basically got all those files created now. We basically, of course, got them placed in individual bins within here or individual folders. So we got all the audio, all the video clips in individual folders here as such. And we then actually have to use video editing software to combine those. So we put our dialogues in there, our narrations and so forth, and then put the appropriate bits of video in here. And again, you can see that that full video is available in here. But I also, of course, had the background music in here. Relatively low volume, maybe a bit too low. I'll make sure that basically in the next video, I'll make, take that into account. But yeah, you need to basically, of course, have your own video editing software to be able to combine them. I'm sure there are AIs available that actually allow you to do that. But I had so many different inputs, so many different short little videos, segments, audio, both the dialogue, both the narration, as well as the background music, that image editing software was the key tool that I actually leveraged in here. Now, there's a lot of AI functionality built into DaVinci Resolve itself now as well. For example, if we go to the timeline here, I can actually use some of the AI tools to, for example, create subtitles. Yeah, so that's a relatively new feature they introduced in this version I've got access to at the moment, version 20. It allows me to have the system automatically create the subtitles for me based upon the narration, based upon the dialogue. So maybe in the next video, we're going to try that out and see how that actually works out. But for now, hopefully you enjoyed this. Got a good sense actually what is involved in the creation of all these different videos here itself. And yeah, if you got any questions, drop me a line. Happy to basically answer those. This video will be published on the Empowering People with the AI channel itself. But of course, I then got the actual video of Elvira itself on the Elvira channel on YouTube itself. Questions, drop me a line. Happy to answer them.